You.
Sorry, you cut out there for a second. Yeah, hi. How's it going?
Hi. That's all right. It's all good. That's good to hear, man. So today I wanted to discuss your work with Azazel and Beelzebub and how you also got into this path.
Yeah, so, I've always sort of been drawn to the occult. I used to do a bunch of reading on the Testament of Solomon, all the spirits that he interacted with, kind of like the folklore behind that. And I almost got into it during the pandemic, but then I didn't for whatever reason. And when I actually got into it, it was because I was going through a breakup and I did not want to feel the way that I wanted to feel. So I did a bunch of research, found a cord cutting ritual, did it, and it worked. And I was like, well, I wonder what else I can really do, right? And I started researching some of the spirits of the Goetia, and one that stuck out a lot was Duke Dantalion. And I just started doing what I thought was right. I started, and I noticed right away that I was able to feel presences pretty easily. That came naturally to me. And I don't think I started believing that what I was dealing with was a real tangible entity until I started getting information that I didn't otherwise have, right? And as I kept doing these invocations and evocations, the voice changed from my own internal dialogue from to a voice that I didn't recognize, a voice that was different. And I just kept going. And I first started working with Azazel. I think I had, I went through 4 or 5 different spirits, just kind of testing the waters, introducing myself to them, seeing what they could bring into my life. And Azazel's name stuck out quite a bit, right? And the first evocation that I did with him, right, it was really dramatic. I had a lot of energies flying around, orbs, spirits coming dashing to and from my windows. And then he finally showed up and I was like, this is incredible. But the thing that the thing that shocked me the most was his presence was very familiar to me. And with him being a massive energy, and reading a lot about him and what he kind of brings into people's life, I was like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But I just, I'm the kind of guy that you got to jump in to swim, right? And I did. And the first thing that me and him worked on was planetary magic, manipulating energies. And he really wanted me, the way that he works with me, or at least the way he worked with me in the beginning was, he would teach me how to do something and then it'd be like, okay, do it. And that's definitely what I needed. And I think I did an evocation 4 times a week with him, starting out for a whole month. And then after that, I was considering a pact with him. And at first he denied a pact. He was like, listen, I want this pact to be mutually beneficial, and you're not asking the right kind of stuff here. And I realized that, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this pact, I'm going to go big, right? And I don't really want to discuss what's all in my pact, but I will say from when I started working to him to now, my life is totally different. So that's sort of very, very broad overview of my start into the occult and my start with working with demonic presences and entities. My work with Beelzebub, I think I was in New Orleans, right? And I ended up getting sick down there. And I had bought this this tarot deck that has the 72 on it, and entities like Malak, Lucifer, Azazel, but Beelzebub's card kept coming out. It kept sticking in my mind, and I wasn't gonna wait around and see what he wanted. So I just did like an astral evocation in this fucking hotel balcony, and he shows up. I'm like, all right, you keep coming up. You're here. What's up? And he showed up in a business suit, and he was like, well, I can do a lot of things for you, but I notice right now that you're sick, so I think it would be good to work with you on some healing. And I was like, bet, let's do this. And I was very taken back by how quick he worked with me. And as soon as I got home from New Orleans, I was like, okay, you got to teach me everything that you know about this. And he started teaching me, how to basically vampirize the sicknesses out of people, how to put that into other people, different kinds of like rights to fill myself with solar energies. And I like the way that I work with these entities because I spend a significant amount of time with them, anywhere between a month to several months. My work with Azazel is still ongoing. But I think it gives these entities time to actually teach you something. It gives me time to actually take all that in. Because if you just, like when I started out, going from like, okay, I'm going to evoke Astarte today, then Dantalion tomorrow, I'm not really getting a whole lot out of that.
Mm. It's more like jumping back and forth between them compared to focusing on one of them and sort of being that spirit's pupil for a set amount of time.
Yes.
And I would say that he probably like absolutely taught you how to weaponize sickness as well, not just utilize to heal, but sort of how to take that sickness, keep it, and use it in sort of curse rites. Would that be sort of correct to say?
Oh, absolutely. He was very adamant about not wasting that energy. He's like, at the end of the day, it is energy, right? And if you're just pulling out of people and letting it go, like that's a waste, right? You can use this in curses. There's a way to put it in different crystals and stones, and then transmutate the energy into raw energy, and then you basically make like energy batteries with this. I really wanted to find out if there was a way that I could lengthen my own youth. And I didn't figure it out until I started talking with you about this process. It was like, it sounds a lot like vampirism. And then like it clicked for me and I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. That's what he's leaning heavily towards.
Absolutely. I still remember when you helped me when I was sick. I had the flu and it was absolutely horrific. Like I couldn't breathe. Like the pressure in my head was just crazy. And when you did that healing process for me that Beelzebub taught you, like I had just gotten out of the bath and I felt like a pop in my actual like sinuses and everything, and like it just cleared up immediately. The pressure from my head was gone, and I was sitting there like, damn, like he's working on me right now. Like and Lucifer came around and was like, yeah, he's doing it right now. And like it blew me back quite a bit actually, like seeing how effective and fast it works. Like it's very, very powerful stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I experienced the same thing when he sort of pulled the sickness out of me. And I've tried what he taught me on myself with like migraines and stuff. And I've noticed that like when I do this kind of stuff for myself, one, you can almost like scan your body when you have any kind of ailment, right, with your hand, right, and wherever that energy sort of like latches onto, or you ever feel that static jump between your hand and the area, that's where you got the location at. And then at that point, when you start drawing it out, it at first, like especially for migraines, the migraine actually gets sharper and a lot worse, and then you reach a point where like you can feel it come out of you. It's very interesting to see the way that magic really works. I'm always incredibly proud of myself when I get results like that, especially in my own life and when I do it for other people.
Absolutely. That's sort of like how a healer rolls, like they get a form of satisfaction out of it almost. And it's what drives them further in their path of healing.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And I sort of know what you're talking about with the migraine thing. I've done it like once or twice when I've had like a really, really bad migraine, like I can sort of astrally see like where the spot is. It's all like it's red energy, sort of like signaling inflammation, sort of. And like, you know that scene in Harry Potter where like Dumbledore gets the wand and like pulls out that thought, and it's like a black sort of string, and he puts it in like that little bowl of water. It's sort of like that. Like you just pull that like string of inflammation and pain out and sort of cast it into the water. That's sort of like the method that I utilize to pull out migraines.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And how's all the stuff going with Azazel, like forging weapons? How's that all going?
Oh man, there is so much to this, and the way that I forged like a chain and hook. I don't know if you've ever played Overwatch or God of War, but it kind of looks like that. And I really made it because in his forge, there's a big pit of fire where all these tormented and damned souls reside in. And you know, sort of like the way that Samael taught you. I know we talked about that a little bit with like pouring the energy or drawing an energy in and then like sort of pouring it into a cast and making a shape. The way they actually told me how to do it is like, okay, do the same thing, but make it into raw material. So I actually like make like an energy block, right? Or like little slivers of energy. And then from there, I literally shape it with all the tools that he has in there. And I wanted to make a chain and hook because, you know, when I was pulling these souls out of this pit, and the reason I'm pulling these souls out of the pit is because you can actually blast them into the weapons that you're making. So when I was pulling it out of this pit, you know, I didn't really feel very safe doing it because one, I don't know if it was just me, but like I was using like a giant pair of tongs and like pulling them, and it was like you're fighting with these souls because they don't want to be put into fucking weapons. So I made this so I could just sort of hook them, draw them in, and sort of get them into a shape that I need them or that I can use them in, and then pouring that then into my weapons, right? So there's actually 3 souls in this chain and hook of mine. I know what it can do to spirits. It can bind them to my will, and sort of anything that tries to fuck with me, I can hook them in real quick and catch them off guard. I don't know what it'll do to people. I have not done enough experimenting with that yet.
Because I was just thinking you could use that for a sort of astral double evocation, like hooking someone's astral double and like ripping it into your ritual space and sort of tying them down so you can, for curse rites and stuff like that.
Oh, that's a good idea. There's a couple people that I'll probably try that with.
So like, what is the function of the soul in the weapon? Like, are they sort of bound to the weapon and sort of help with any activity the weapon does, or do they empower it, stuff like that?
Yeah, so the way that it works, like these are damned souls. They're not good souls at all. What you do is, you know, I'll focus on what is it that I want this weapon to do, right? So for making this hook and chain, I was like, okay, it has to basically enslave these spirits and bind them to my will, right? And I was like, you know, I need to focus on a damned soul that I can locate and lock onto that energy. Sort of like when you're doing an astral evocation of another person, right? You lock onto that energy, you find it in the pit, and you pull it out. And I focused on there's one who was a warden of some sorts, and there's another one who was a police officer. So that's self-righteous anger, all that energy that he lived in life, and why he's down there in that pit, and then just raw hatred and a superiority complex that's poured into the actual chain. So all that emotional energy that they live their life doing is then infused into the weapon. And then for the actual hook, and this is actually where I decided, okay, I need to use this hook to pull new souls if I'm going to do this again, or when I do this again. Because for the hook, I was like, I need something that will pierce through anything and anyone by any means. And I locked onto a World War II veteran who sacrificed the men of his battery in order to complete his job. And he actually was not willing at all and put up quite a good fight. I had a mark on my face when it happened. But I ended up getting him and just, I just, like thinking about it now and reliving that it really is like a fight when you're doing this for the first time.
Absolutely, it does sound like a fight. And as you said, they're not willing. You sort of have to bend and break them in a fight, so to speak. Like even with vampirism, it's a battle of will. When you vampirize someone, their higher self knows, and it fights back every time. That's why not every vampirism is baneful unless you really try to go for it and keep continually coming back and forth and draining them, causing sickness, injuries, etc. So it's sort of like the same principle. They don't want to be bound to a weapon. They don't want to be put into a weapon. So they will fight back. And as you said,
no, not at all.
Yeah, these souls are damned. They weren't good people, I presume. Like we spoke of the cop and the warden and all, I heard like from this sort of side of the room, like corruption, like they were corrupt and very abusive in their roles of power.
Yeah, no, there's a reason that they're down there in the first place. And I mean, they don't even want to be down there, period. So being forced into a weapon, basically being smashed into that, like, I wouldn't want that happening to me. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm the magician. My will be done, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely, indeed. And like with my method of making astral weapons, like with the mace I made, I started off in like layers. Like the first layer, which is the core of the mace, which is like sort of the handle part and just a simple inside of the ball, is made of black solar energy from the black sun. Samael would bring that energy to me and I would sort of pour it into that shape to create the core of the weapon, to give it strength. And the outer layer would be the finishing layer to the handle and the outer layer of the ball with the spikes. Because you can't like pound an actual mace into shape like you would with a sword or anything like that. It's got to be sort of cast in a way. And I used draconian energy. He calls it something, the dragon's eye. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it's drawn from a source called the dragon's eye. And when you like wield this weapon, you're sort of smashing these energies across their astral double in a baneful manner. That's sort of how I came across making weapons in the astral with Samael.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, when I made that chain, you know, because you can't actually pound the shape of a chain unless you go through each individual link. I sort of did that same thing where I just poured it into that cast, poured it into that shape, and made it.
Absolutely. What was the like energy of the chain made from?
I think I just used like elemental fire energy because that's connected to our own will, right? And I wanted that to supersede anything else that was present in the chain.
Absolutely. And I understand you're doing some work with Lucifuge at the moment. Is there anything that you speak about?
You know, I'm working with him right now. My one goal is to start like an actual physical temple and a metaphysical shop within my city. And I also want to learn all kinds of wealth magic that I can perform for myself and perform for other people. And Lucifuge, from my time spent with him, is a master of like alchemy, transforming oneself. And here, I actually got this right here in front of me. I've got this carnelian that he showed me in a vision. I didn't know it was carnelian that he showed me until recently. And I've been dumping a ton of energy into this through a charging block, a charging sigil, and some words of power that he gave me. And, you know, people that don't practice magic, when they come to my apartment, this gives them anxiety, or it just fills their head up with pressure. And I know you talked about it a little bit in the Cult of Belial group, being acclimated to that energy. You know, we can't really pick up on it the more that we're around it, right? So like my apartment is full of sort of infernal energy and of all kinds. But this stone, when I'm charging it, it's tangible. Like it's thick between when I'm charging it, putting my hands over it and chanting those words. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than like it literally feels like I'm putting my hands through, or my hands are submerged in some kind of like what's the word? I don't want to say like jelly. It's more electric than that.
Like sort of like the heat that comes off an oven, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah. But like you know, like when your hands are cold and you get the tingles?
Yep.
It's like that, but hot.
I know exactly what you mean. Yep. It's like that, just that massive energy in that one spot that it just brings off that heat almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I know he wanted to actually have to do an evocation probably tomorrow with him. He wanted to explain to me a better way to go about making pacts, because you know the way that I do pacts, I have parchment. I use parchment to draw my sigils on when I'm doing evocation rites. But I normally, you know, I write down what I'm offering, and then I write down what I expect, and the time allotted for the pact, and then I sign my name, draw the blood. They sign their name, which usually appears astrally. And very briefly, he spoke to me. I don't remember what I was doing, but he's like, there's a better way to do this, to actually breathe life into this pact. Because when you're making a pact, it does a couple of things. One, it gives you're giving your entire welfare over to the care of the spirit, right? And it allows them to use anything within their power to fulfill their end of the pact, right? So it's very powerful, the act of making a pact, and they will go absolutely to all lengths to fulfill their end of the pact. So even if you decide that you do not want what is written in the pact anymore, they are going to still be working day in and day out, 24/7. So that's when you make a pact, you want to make sure that you know what it is you want. You have clearly defined goals. I lost my train of thought here, but when all this stuff sort of, I don't want to say anchors the spirit to this realm, but in a way it does. Like it does come to life a little bit. And I think just based off like my intuition, if you spend a little bit more time and care into the act of making the pact after you both agree on terms of it, it can make that power more tangible. And basically you're basically like creating like a little a vessel for all this energy to flow through into your life.
Absolutely. And like one thing I want to add to that is a lot of people sort of don't look into the fine print of their contracts when they make a pact. They don't specify certain things. Like if someone offers the divine spark in a pact, right? As their end, just simply saying I offer my divine spark can really fuck you over, because it's sort of like a legal thing almost, how people go about loopholes in contracts. They're like, well, you didn't specify exactly how much or how many pieces of the divine spark you're offering, so we're just going to take it all, essentially, because that's what's stated in the pact.
Right. Not only that, but you're not defining what you're giving your divine spark for, right? They can take it and do whatever they want with it if it's not clearly defined. So, yeah, it's definitely a smart idea. Like, if there's things that you don't want touched in your life, you're allowed to sort of set limitations on that pact, right?
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. And with what you were saying about the carnelian, how people can feel it when they enter your apartment. I've got, I'll see if I can find it now, but I've got this thing that I made for Abaddon. I can't find it now, but I made this sort of scythe for Abaddon out of a lawnmower and some other things. And I gave it as an offering, but he empowered it as a weapon that I can use in rituals. And I had it sitting on an altar that I had there. And someone came in my room and they're like, "Oh, what's this?" I picked it up and said, "Hold it." They held onto it and they like full like went back like whoa, like there's something to this. Like I'm like, yeah, well it's on the altar for a reason, you know, like and
Right, don't touch the altar.
Yeah, kind of thing. And then everyone when they sort of walk in here, they get drawn to certain things in the room. Like over here, like I got like the jawbone for Belial and a bunch of other things for the spirits, and each one of those is sort of like a vessel, an icon for the spirit, and their energy flows through it. So to whomever walks here, they're drawn to specific things for specific reasons because that certain spirit calls out to them in a way.
Absolutely. Also, I don't know if you were doing this on purpose or not, but I do not see your camera as being on. So,
oh, okay. It's on. I'll try and turn it on. Is that what?
Is it on my end? I don't know. There we go.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, but all those things there. It'd be funny if they shut off the cameras. They're not meant to be showing those things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But aside from that, is there anything else you wanted to speak more upon about what you've learned with Azazel, Beelzebub, or Lucifuge?
I think I covered like a very general overview, and again, like a lot of this stuff goes really, really deep, and I could talk for days about all this stuff, and my work continues with them. Like Azazel is actually showing me here. I got this right here. This is on the back of a shipping receipt. All these, it's a script of sorts, and he also led me to a book called The Nine Eyes of Light that the Egyptians, it's like an alternate energy system to the chakras. But like actually reading the book, they actually use the chakras and like the different meditations and stuff. And I think the goal of this is, you know, he wants to make my energy so strong and palpable that when I walk into a room, people pick up on it. Like people know that I'm there. And I think these are hidden names, either from myself in different past lives or like my true divine self. I know I've learned my dark name from Azazel, so it'll be interesting once all that comes. And I actually I wasn't picking up on why I was getting all these visions of all these symbols for a couple of days leading up to when he told me. He's like, "You got to write this down." So I was like on my phone, like chicken scratching this stuff and making sure I got everything down. But I think it's going to unlock a lot of things that I've learned in different past lives leading up to this point.
Absolutely. It goes back to the occult saying know thyself, not just in this life, but in every other life. And that will bring a lot of power into your life, absolutely. Even past lives that aren't human, if people have had them. There can be many different past lives in many different realms. It can have mantis past lives, reptilian past lives, even spiritual past lives in different realms, like the grey angelic realms and such as well. And these things are almost like aspects of yourself that you can access for power, so to speak.
Absolutely. I'm just excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, 100%. That's the path, man. It's unknown until you get to that point, and then it sort of just folds all at once. But yeah, I think that's it for now. And that's all we've can divulge on in this interview.
Right. Rock and roll, dude. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. There will be more to come. I promise that.
Absolutely. And have a blessed day, everyone.
All right, how do I